Hello, everybody.
Hello.
I am Strati Papa Georgiou.
And I'm Father Michael Tischel.
And we are...
And...
Imperfect
Podcast. Cue that music.
Just cue music.
I don't know if I'm allowed to talk or not.
No, don't talk. No.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, you're
you
good.
can do whatever you want, really.
Yeah.
You can interrupt us if you want. It's not like...
Yeah.
We should have said that before we started. You could just literally...
No. I gotta let you get the proper intro in first.
Oh, yeah, you better believe it.
Yeah.
This is exciting. It is exciting.
What's happening right here with three people in drastically different time zones.
Yeah. We're communing over time and space here.
We actually managed to do it. So this is going to work out.
Yep. And we're excited to have back with us for part 2 of our conversation, Nicholai, Justin Bingham, hailing all the way from Japan.
What?
Yep. and so yeah, Nicholai, we're really excited to have you back.
Well, Father, thank y'all for having me back. I'm grateful to have this opportunity, and even more grateful that the alarm on my phone actually worked, so I could wake up. And I'm also grateful for the fact that today it's currently Friday for me here in Japan.
Right.
I don't have work today, so this is just awesome. So as soon as this is over, I can go back to sleep.
Oh, nice. So don't drink too much coffee now, I guess, huh?
Right.
Yeah. Nice. Well, how you guys been? How's everybody doing?
Great. I talked to you yesterday, Father Michael.
I know. Yep. So not much has transpired since then.
A lot.
You did pick some
I was just about to
fruit.
say I picked a few fruits, some fruit.
Selections of fruit. Something.
I'm forgetting my English. It's
yeah,
fine.
That's okay.
Yeah.
Nice. And Nikolai, remind us where in Japan you're located.
Yeah.
I am currently in Chiba Prefecture, which is like right next to Tokyo. Like Tokyo Station is about 35 minutes from my home station. So yeah.
Excellent. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Excellent. All right. Well, I think we should just jump right in and
last episode, let's just say a lot of times a bit of time has transpired, and so we kind of forgot what happened at the end. I believe, Nikolai, you were singing to us, and then it cut off.
That's right. That's right.
No, I believe I finished that song. I don't think there's any need to bring up that old tragedy. No, yeah. I was in the middle of singing something, and then by providence, lightning hit, and apparently the Lord was like, "Yeah, no, you're good. No, you're done." That's what you get for not warming up.
No, man, that was very moving, but it was an abrupt end to our conversation.
Yeah.
Lightning, something happened. I don't know what happened.
Yeah.
Right. So where were we in the story as far as your journey to Japan? I know you had visited a couple times, if I remember correctly, and then at some point you actually decided to take the plunge, and you've been there for seven years, is it?
Yeah, 7 years now. So this is technically my 3rd time being in Japan. Obviously, it's the longest, but to kind of recap that. Actually, I never think I actually went through the reason why I came to Japan, because there's a lot of countries,
Sure.
in the world. So when I was growing up, our next door neighbors were an American Japanese family, and the I think the mother was Japanese and the father was American, and I think they both met in I think Okinawa. He was a military person. I think they met in Okinawa, and what the family did was they had these like huge collection of tapes of Japanese anime and TV that they recorded, and so like when I was real little, they would let me and my brother borrow them, and we just sit there and watch like Dragon Ball and all these like Japanese TV shows. And at that point, it's like, okay, I'm going to Japan. I have no idea why. I have no idea what these people are saying, but I'm going here. And the best way I can articulate this, y'all can call my mom and ask my mama. It was basically like there was a voice in my head yelling at me to go to Japan. Like I cannot express to you enough how much it was like I have to go here. And then I went in 2010 to Fukuoka, which is on the island of Kyushu. So Japan has like 3 big islands. I think in total there's like 6,000, but like 3 big ones. And Kyushu is the biggest island, like to the west, right? And Fukuoka is at the top. And by the way, the church that I found was in Fukuoka is about the size of the room I'm in. Which, tiny. Yeah, with that surprised me when I found that out. So I went there in 2010, which is the same time I started kind of inquiring in the Orthodox Church. And then that was just to go to Japan, right? To study abroad, just to be in the country. The second time was after the disaster that happened in 2011 with the big tsunami and the earthquake and the nuclear power plant, right? So that happened. I saw that on TV and I was like, yo, I need to go to Japan again. And so I, submitted my little essay to this like ambassador program at my university, because my university, MTSU was I need to stop randomly doing that. And the university in Fukushima were like, hey, we're going to do this thing where we're going to get some students from Fukushima University, we're going to get some students from MTSU, and we're going to do this thing where we're going to do like a kind of like ambassador program to try to, lift spirits type thing.
Nice.
So they picked 10 folk from all over the university, and thanks be to God, I was picked and sent over there. And we spent like 9 days going through the disaster area, looking at stuff. I think I mentioned some of this last time. Mm-hmm. And that drove me to being here now. Because after that happened, I was like, okay, I have to go back to Fukushima. And then, I think I also mentioned last time, I found my job now, and then I left like on the same date as the earthquake disaster from the U.S. And
you're working as an English teacher at the moment.
Yeah, I'm working as an English teacher now. It's for a different company, and me and my wife moved from Fukushima. She's from Fukushima, but the reason why I'm here now is originally because of that.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
So I would like to just ask, I mean, you are from Tennessee, you're African-American.
Yes.
You are married to a Japanese woman, right? If I'm not correct?
Yes.
If I'm not
yes,
mistaken.
Sir.
And you're living in Japan. Like how does that all work? How what's your experience of all that? How'd you meet your wife? Our fans really want to know.
No, you don't. No, you really don't. Because if I tell you, it's not going to make you happy.
Oh boy.
Because my wife actually, I should probably wake up and get her to tell you. So what happened was, when I came here for this job, so I came, or not this, English teaching, my previous company back in 2013, one of the people from that program that I joined, the volunteer program after the disaster, he hit me up. He said, "Hey, Justin, we doing this, like I have this little English group of people that I just kind of teach on the side. Would you want to come up and just talk to them?" I was like, "Okay, yeah, okay, sure, whatever. I got time." So I went up there, and I had just started learning Shigin, the chanting, right, the poetry chanting. Mm-hmm. And I went there, talked to everybody, did my little singing, did my little performance, because like not a lot of Japanese people do that, and like no foreigners basically do it. And so that was kind of like, that's kind of my thing when I want to impress people, say, "Hey, yeah, I do this Japanese poetry singing that, you know, yeah." And then from my wife's perspective, this is how she'll probably tell you. She really didn't like me and thought I was really just overly American, like, "Hey, I'm American," right? That type of thing. But then after after I did the little singing, she thought, "Okay, he really likes Japanese culture." And that's as far as it went. And then Lord, and then you know, we started talking to each other, and me, I'm one of those, you know.
So she was one of the students in the class?
Yeah, she was one of the people there. And then after the class finished, we just started talking to each other. And I'm one of those like super confident people to where like she messaged me back, and I was like, "A woman messaged me first." Whoa. And then so then, you know, so we started talking for a while, and then you know, we eventually started seeing each other. And then I brought up this question to her. This is the thing I got to really commend her for. I said to her, I was like, "Hey, I'm Orthodox, or at least I'm trying to be, Lord have mercy." And you know, later on in the relationship, I said, "Hey, we need to start talking about marriage, because you know, gas to be proper about things." And she's, you know, just regular Japanese person. And if you ask, or if you kind of ask this question, "Are Japanese people religious?" a lot of people would tell you no. But I think I maybe mentioned this last time. It's Japanese people don't probably process that question the same way. But for all intents and purposes, my wife wasn't really religious in any real conscious level. Mm-hmm. And I said to her, "Hey, you know, I'd like to get married to you." If my daddy hears how I talk on this podcast, he's probably gonna be real proud of me, actually. Like, boy, you did well. So,
I raised you well.
Yeah. My family's so country. Anyway, what was I talking about? Yeah, and then so I said to her, "Hey, okay, we need to have this talk, because for me, this is really important that I have a religious wedding. I have a wedding in a church, because it's something that's really important to me." And we had like a year-long religious talk. Things we got her mom was really just like, "Oh, okay, fine. Well, you get married to him." And she's more the older kind of, well, my wife's older than me, and her mom is kind of, her parents kind of had slightly that more traditional Japanese way of thinking. Well, you know, you marry him, you know, he's a slightly different religion, you join his religion, okay, that makes sense, because you'll have this kind of dual thing in Japan with Shintoism and Buddhism, and you'll have like a family that's primarily Buddhist, and when they get married, the partner's predominantly Shinto, and then one will just join the other. So it's like, okay, whatever, you know. So I think that's the mindset her mom was coming from. But thank God for that, because there was a worry that her parents would be kind of against the whole her, you know, their daughter becoming Christian. But they were very like, well, okay. Okay, remind me to tell you about how I proposed to her, because I never technically proposed to her, and also the whole lead up to the wedding. That's another thing. And so we had this like year-long slow conversation, and that was very helpful for me, because it kind of that whole thing taught me patience, because I've seen, a whole bunch of Orthodox podcasts and stuff about, finding someone that has the right, that you can grow with spiritually and has that same foundation. Well, I didn't do that. I found somebody who had no connection to my spiritual outlook on life, basically at all. And when I consulted my main priest here, who's Japanese, I asked him, I said, Father, what do I do? Because I want to become Christian. I want to do this. And at that time, it wasn't, thinking back on it, it wasn't really, I want her to become Christian for her salvation or anything. It was just, I want her to do this because I want her to do it now. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And he kind of noticed it. He's like, no, that's not how it works. He's like, what you do is you let her slowly, in her own time, come to realize who Christ is and come to realize what it means to be a Christian. In other words, boy, be patient. And there's, even in that little statement I just made, there's whole other little tiny moments that just surprised me. Like I remember one day, like I forget, I was leaving for work, she was leaving for work for something. We were getting ready to leave, and like she hugged me, and then I felt that she made the sign of the cross on my back. Like she was blessing me before I left, and I kind of stopped. I was like, wait, what did you just do? I was like, did you just cross me? And she was like, yeah. I was like, whoa, oh, maybe I do need to be patient, yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. So, yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah. I'm trying to keep
what's your
bites.
wife's name?
Her name is Shoko, which means like Shoko, yeah, which means I think it means like blessed child, I think.
Nice.
I need to wake up and double check. And her baptismal name is Irene.
Oh, very nice. Beautiful.
Which is also the same as the famous Japanese iconographer Yamashita Dean. Well, her Japanese name was Dean, but her baptismal name was Irene, which I think may be in one of these books.
She told me about her, yeah.
Yeah.
You can show me her work. She did 19th century iconography for the churches there in Japan. Wonderful.
Yeah. And there's also a few people now that are trying to become like professional iconographers here in Japan. It's kind of a tough situation now, but there are people that are trying to keep that going.
Yeah, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
So what is the sort of the state of things from the perspective of the church for the people listening? What's it look like on the Japanese landscape? And you can be as honest as
or you can just lie to us and tell us just also.
Yeah, I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna do the second one. I'm gonna do the happy option. No, okay. So it depends. On one hand, like people here are getting so wonderfully creative. Like I need to look up the name of the church. I think it's the Kushiro Church in Hokkaido. Shout out to Father Stephen, because Father Stephen is just going hard on that, and he is doing. He started, I think, about 2 months ago, doing recordings of his homilies. This is all for like the Japanese people, because there's not really a lot of stuff available. So he started doing, a whole bunch of churches across Japan have started doing the live streams, just like, a lot of churches in the world are doing now, right?
Yeah.
A couple of the churches.
Can you send me some of those? I'd like to watch them once in a while.
Oh yeah. So a couple of churches are doing the liturgies. Even the church in also the church in Korea. There's a connection. Like some of the people are real friendly. Like I know some people that are connected to the church in Korea, and the church in Korea is also doing that thing too. Which is, if you ever get a chance, look up the Orthodox Church in Korea.
Very familiar.
They're more with the Greeks, and oh my gosh,
Right.
their churches are pretty. Anyway, so there's that. There's the YouTube. There's the church in Osaka, and in one of the churches in Sapporo are trying to do these online lessons.
Ministry.
Yeah, again, Father Stephen in Hokkaido is periodically will do these kind of Zoom episodes, kind of like this, with
yeah, you showed me.
a friend in where's John living in Croatia, I think. Croatia's in Croatia. A Japanese a graduate of I think St. Vladimir's, and they do these talks about a couple different things. One of them was if you're recently catechized or you just got baptized, what are some books that Father recommends reading? They talked about I think they did an episode about the Chalcedonian and non-Chalcedonian churches. They did one where they had, I think, a chaplain, a hospital chaplain. They have chaplains, hospital chaplain, and they spoke with her about stuff. So they're starting to, you're starting to see a little bit more content coming out for Japanese people.
Yeah, that's important.
Yeah, and in Osaka, with Matushka Matsushima and Father George Matsushima, they do a lot of translations. Like they're working on. Okay, I'm just gonna say it. If I get in trouble, I'll get in trouble. They're almost finished with the Japanese version of Metropolitan Callistos, where it's the Orthodox Way. So that's going to be coming out sometime relatively soon. But one concern they had, because we had like a Zoom talk with them and a whole bunch of other people. They're like, who would buy it? Because unfortunately, the church in Japan is really, 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 really small, right? Like the church me and my wife goes to, or that I serve at, is the church in Fukushima, and now it's like 5 people, 6 people if you include the priest.
Wow.
And they're like all in their 80s.
Yeah.
So it's on one hand, it's like there's a lot of kind of really good innovative ideas coming out now, like Zoom. Oh, also like Matushka Maria, she's going to be doing the one in Osaka. I think this month and next month she's going to be doing like an online thing about church singing. Well, she already made a YouTube video about it, explaining like Byzantine chant, Zenamini. Oh my gosh, you need to talk to her, because obviously her English is fantastic, because she does all this translation work, and she's
that too. I'd like to see her videos as well.
Yeah. Really and neat. Actually, the reason why I know her is because some years back when I was in the States, I was doing some research, and this is, I think, after I came back from studying abroad. I was like, hey, how can I get like a Japanese prayer book? And I found her online, and I messaged her, and she was able to send me one. So I need to really get y'all in touch with her. But I mean, another thing is, it's kind of a sad situation. Like the main cathedral in Tokyo has been inaccessible to the faithful for a while.
Really, they haven't opened yet?
Yeah, that's a conversation. So what I did, I was like last week, I was going to this like Japanese themed like bar place to kind of meet some friends and do some networking. And I was like, wait, I got some extra time. Let me run by the church real quick just to go there, because I mean, standing out front of it is better than nothing. You know what I'm saying? And while I was going up the stairs to walk towards the church out of the train station, got the email that said, yeah, September, the church won't be open in September. And I was like, okay, all right. Then I'm gonna go to the gate. I'm gonna stand there and do my prayers there. And I did that, and that felt awesome. Like, that was cool. I think I'm gonna do that again. It was pretty beastly. I was like, yo, that's what's up. I like it. So, but I mean, that's it. Okay, it's that's one part of it. There's a lot, I think, that I mean, but then again, all this is just my perspective. Like, to really get a better perspective, it'd be best to ask more of the Japanese faithful, because they would know far better than me.
Yeah, in line with that, though, Nikolai, can you just maybe reflect on how you see Saint Nikolai of Japan's kind of legacy and work and struggle? We were talking about how he came to Japan. From Russia. He spent years, like 6-7 years, just studying the culture, being very sensitive to the place that he was kind of going to, so as not to kind of impose any of the cultural elements from the faith that he was taking from Russia, and to really allow the gospel and the church to kind of grow naturally. And so he obviously put in an enormous amount of blood, sweat, and tears into the church in Japan. And I mean, obviously none of us are clairvoyant or prophets, but like, can you reflect a little bit on how you sort of see the connection between his vision for the church and where the church is now?
It honestly, it'd be better to ask somebody that's more consistent in their church going. But from all the things I've heard and I've seen, because there's lots of stuff's been happening.
And when did he live again? When he was in the
He was in Japan from the early 1860s until 1912.
Okay. Gotcha.
It's a 1860s or not 1860s to 1912. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think, well, one, the church is still here.
Sure.
Which, thanks be to God for that. But if I'm gonna keep it 100, it needs a lot. It needs a lot, because it's basically it's aging. And that bothers me. Like, I'm okay. Y'all can take this next part out, but this is, I think it really speaks to that whole goal, right? So we's told that the gospel is for everybody, right? And in the scriptures, we see Christ going out talking to all types of folk from all types of levels of society, right? Like, to put into modern terms, drug dealers, prostitutes, all these other folk, right? And they're sitting there thinking, well, hold up, because I'm a very overly simple-minded person, but I'm like, wait, we supposed to talk to everybody, right? But we're not talking to everybody. And I think for a multitude of reasons here in Japan, like resource-wise, the church is just really, really small. Culturally, this is just full speculation here. Like, culturally, there's a lot of, like, in Japanese culture, of kind of keeping peace, like social peace. You don't want to disrupt things and embarrass yourself or embarrass other people. But part of me has these like little thoughts of like, well, Japan has a really I don't know how to say it, like colorful industry that focuses on carnal things. There we go. That's using your big boy words. And that's subtlety right there, bro. Okay. And so, but part of me has been thinking seriously, like, okay, is it because we shouldn't, or we don't know how to reach out to that vast group of society? You know what I mean? Because like when Saint Nikolai came here, from what I know, he basically tried his best to dive into Japanese culture. Like I think one of the stories is he got kicked out of a school because they got suspicious of him being there. I think it was like a Buddhist school, I think. And he basically said, okay, I'm going to insert myself into this aspect of your culture because I want to learn about it. And it kind of made people uncomfortable because like, wait, why are you here? He said, no, I'm just trying to learn. I just want to connect with you. And you know, that can, I think, kind of be a reaction that if you try to give that,
and so even though the people in the church there, they're all mostly, I mean, I know there are foreigners as well, but like there is a Japanese foundation, like there are Japanese people who were born into it.
Oh yeah.
And even then they don't want to reach out to their own people, their own.
Well, I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't say they don't want to. I would
or they
not
don't
say
know
they
how.
don't.
Rather, perhaps they don't know how.
I don't know about the individual person. I would just say that it appears to be a question of how do we do it. But then see, I've gotten answers from Japanese people, from priests and stuff like that, where it's a very kind of Japanese way of thinking, of where it's through your action, right? Of course, there's the actual verbal spreading of the gospel. It's also, but I've gotten a lot of responses if it's how you behave, right? It's you give that, and that kind of made me rethink this whole thing of, well, hold up, maybe it's, you know,
No, I was just going to say, regardless of the way of where we're at now, I think we, you know, from what you have shared about Saint Nikolai and
the future of it.
Well, yeah, and also just other examples of, I mean, Christ himself and the apostles and the saints and the martyrs. There's a certain boldness that they all exhibit that I think, you know, we can all agree to one extent or another. At least I can say, even just in my own life, I feel like, you know, I ask myself, where is that boldness in me? You know, like where you know, why am I afraid of the world? Why am I afraid of, you know, society impinging on my faith and corrupting my faith and watering it down, rather than, why isn't the culture afraid of me? You know, like, you know, I mean, you know, and that, I mean, in that way, I mean, like Christ was that, in the sense that he, you know, I mean, the scribes and the Pharisees were afraid of him because they were afraid that he was going to be, you know, kind of causing trouble and sort of, you know, disturbing the status quo. And with many of the saints, I mean, I think, you know, they, not necessarily because they had any sort of like revolutionary spirit, or they were rabble rousers or anything like that. It had nothing. It wasn't even so much that. It was just their holiness and their prayerfulness and their who they were automatically came in conflict with certain elements of the world and of society, and you know, why is it that there's no tension between me and society? Or if there is tension, it's not because I am sort of pushing against society, it's that I feel society, I'm the victim in a certain sense. You know, it you know, and so I don't even know what the question is or something, but just it's sort of like an admiration of these people, of Christ himself and of these people, and then a question of my own witness or lack thereof, or the church's witness or whatever.
Yeah.
I'm really curious, like, what happened after Saint Nikolai died.
Mm-hmm.
You know, how did they deal? You know, what had happened? You know, not to say that it all collapsed right after he died. Obviously, it didn't.
Right.
But you know, I'm curious to know what it looked like.
Stresses. Stresses. There were, to put it lightly, stresses. But again, with that specific topic, if you really, really want to know, I can try and get you in contact with some folk that know that history, that were either here for it or actually like know in detail, because I've heard a little bits of it. And I heard, like, especially during like the Cold War era, I heard that the church in Japan had some problems because you know there was connections to Russia, and then there's all these other things, and so but back to that thing of being, you know, that boldness, which is, you know, honestly something I kind of struggle with, because I'm in such a peaceful, relatively speaking, country. And I'm a very nervous person. Like, I don't like dealing with conflict. And then I keep kind of, you know, hearing these things of the saints and the martyrs being that bold. And I'm kind of like, I'm like, bro, I'm not there yet, man. Like, am I supposed to do that now? Like, I can't do that. You know what I'm saying? But then I've discovered little ways to kind of let my orthodoxy out, right? Because if you get down to it, there's a big ignorance problem of Christianity in Japan. It's like, I think that, you know, that's a huge thing here. Like the misunderstandings of things about Christianity, the lack of knowledge of Christianity is so big that it's like, okay, I need to find a completely different way of articulating this to you. Now, of course, you got people that, you know, that Japanese people that would find information about Christ, and through that they would become baptized and stuff. Because like, I knew a girl who she was baptized in Tokyo, I think about 2 years ago or so, and asked her, and she's Japanese. I asked her, how'd you become to find this? And she's like, well, you know, I was going through online searching for something. She found some phrase or something that she found was interesting. I was like, oh, what's that? And she came across the I think the page for St. Nikolai's Cathedral, and she was like, all right, well, let me go by there. She went by there, and, you know, eventually got baptized, you know. But like, I've noticed there's so much lack of information that it's kind of like, okay, for me personally, how do I approach this? Because I work in high schools, right? Mainly as my main job. And so I teach a lot of high school kids. I'm thinking, okay, you know, there's the option of just being fully, you know, intense about it. But like, if I come up to people and talk about Jesus, like, are they going to understand the perspective I'm coming from, you know?
How are they about that kind of thing there, religion in schools?
Like, discussing it seems to be pretty, you know, they're like, okay, we'll just discuss it. I mean, it doesn't matter. We'll talk about it, right? It's kind of, which I think is a fantastic situation to be in comparatively, because it's just like, I have no idea about that. Yeah. Sure, why not?
And it's kind of like the same stigma, or
right. It kind of has this blank canvas where you can kind of just start a conversation, especially like non-Western forms of Christianity, like you know, that's not known basically. And so it's kind of cool because it gives us a chance to kind of talk about it. So that's something I'm thankful for. A simple way to put it, like, okay, so like I said, I work in high schools, and that gives me an opportunity to try to, as I think about it, be God willing, a slight push is the best I can hope for now. You know what I mean? Is the best way I can explain it. Because I deal with people that are, 17, 18, 15, 16, and it's like, okay, God willing, in 10, 20 years when you're doing stuff, you're probably not going to remember me, right? Which is fine. You don't have to remember me, but is there some sort of like spiritual time capsule I can, through God's grace, implant in you that even if you don't consciously know what it is, there's a slight push,
I like that.
And
if I can just interject, I mean, one thing you mentioned was that the tension that you feel between hearing the stories of Christ and the martyrs and the saints, and sort of, seeing the magnitude of their boldness, and then living as you are in a relatively peaceful country, and as you put it, sort of having that feeling of like, I can't do this. Like I'm not, I don't feel that. But then I think your conclusion, I think, was very, very helpful, which was just, the little things, right? Like what are the little ways that I can be bold, right? Like, cause I think that's where part of the negative tension arises between those stories and our experience is we see that those stories in very big terms, sort of kind of grandiose big terms, but what we don't see is the little battles that were fought by the saints that probably didn't even make it into the hagiographies and and actually along those lines, maybe this would be a good time to talk a little bit about your discovery of Saint Nikolai's own struggle with kind of feeling despondent and kind of, again, not to, I think it actually enriches one's understanding and view of.
That's a segue. That's a segue right there. I like it.
Yeah.
Thank you, Father, for bringing it up. Yeah.
It was a nice segue.
Yeah, I like that.
Better than a Segway scooter.
Yeah. Oh, I wanted to make that reference. Oh, I wanted to say that. No. So yeah, another thing that is kind of difficult about being in a non-Orthodox country is that you kind of lose that kind of spiritual support system. Well, you don't lose it, but it becomes a little bit more difficult to kind of keep at the same levels. Especially if you deal with any sort of stresses, because I've dealt with depression and anxiety for a good while, and I've had, while being in Japan, I've had a couple, there's nothing like stressing and crying on a train. Like that's what's up. But to that end, that time where you're on the train with your wife discussing things and it's really stressful and you just start crying and your wife looks at you like, bro, you okay? You good? You good? And then, yeah, we've all been there, right?
We've all been there.
Yeah. And
I was on a train once in high school. Sorry to interrupt you, but I used to ride the train back and forth to high school, and I had my headphones in, and I was listening to, I mean, this was high school, right? So I was listening to, I think it was Linkin Park or something like that. I don't remember exactly.
Oh, I love Linkin Park. Yeah.
Yeah. I think it might have actually been Creed, but anyway, that's yeah. But anyway, so yeah. I had it blasting in my ears, right?
Did you cry?
What's that?
Yeah.
No, I didn't cry. And the train was relatively crowded, and I was sitting there, and I had developed the very wise skill of being able to sort of nod off just enough to get some sleep, but not enough to miss my stop. Yeah. And so I was sort of nodding off, and then all of a sudden something prompted me to open my eyes for a split second, and all of a sudden I see papers all over the floor in front of me. And because I was half asleep, I just assumed that they were my own, right? So I and I have music blasting in my ears, right? And it's a pretty crowded, and so I'm just oh no, I yell out some sort of really loud in this crowded train. And then I come to realize that they weren't my papers. They were somebody else's papers and they were picking them up. So I was just like, I'm this like random person that just like wakes up and just yells out, "Oh no!" in the middle of the train. So, anyways,
it happens. I mean, you need to look up some of the things that happen in Japanese trains. It gets weird. Yeah, it gets weird. But that's So what was I talking about? Oh yeah. So one day I was having one day I was having a really like rough time, and some years back I was able to come across the Japanese translations of Saint Nikolai's diaries. So he basically wrote from his early, I think the earliest one I can remember is like the 1870s, maybe late 1860s, I'm not sure, all the way up until like shortly before his death, right? So he wrote for like 60 some odd years in his diaries. And I was just thumbing through it, and I ran across this entry from around 1901, and it's basically him writing down an experience of having about a depression, and he basically said something to the effect, "I feel like I've just like drifting in this gloomy state. It's been going on for a few days. Don't know really what the cause of it is. It could be this, it could be that." But then he says something towards the end of it. "It's not me." Essentially, he says, "It's not me. This is not my permanent state."
Sure.
And then he said towards the end, I'm gonna go to church. I'm gonna receive communion. I'm gonna be good. And I'm like, yeah. And that really like made my heart stop when I saw it. It's like, whoa, because like I needed that right then.
Yeah, that's powerful on a lot of levels. I mean, it's a powerful piece of advice, no matter who it was and no matter how it was given. But it's also powerful insofar as you get this very rare inner glimpse into the struggle of a holy person. And I think, I mean, it's easy to fall into that kind of caricatured view of holiness that saints are sort of like come out of the womb like levitating, and just the realization that they are real fallen human beings that struggle with sin, and in the midst of all of that they're being sanctified. I think it makes their holiness, to me, actually even more palpable and more present, because they are struggling, and they're dealing with the real temptations and real problems. Yeah.
With that, I get two more things to that end. One is I remember commenting to a Japanese brother one time. We were after Pascha, we were having the lunch with everybody, and we were talking about Saint Nicholai, and I said something to the effect of, he did all of these things creating this church because he's a saint. And the Japanese brother was like, no, it's the opposite. He's a saint because he did all that stuff.
That's good.
And it kind of made me think, it's like, oh yeah. And then I was like, you're right. And then the last thing, it's if any of y'all listen to this, teachers, I'm gonna tell y'all my little, I guess you could call it a prayer. I don't conceive of it as one, but I guess it is one. I've gotten into this habit where every time I step on school grounds, I stop and cross myself. Not because it's like I'm into, well, I mean, in a way, how I view it, it's like, it's like I'm entering a holy space in the sense that, well, I'm going to be presented with a room full of the icons of God, right?
Sure.
And in that 40, 50 minutes of that lesson, underpinning the whole lesson that I'm teaching is there should be some element of Christianity in there, right? In how I deal with the individual students, and the little tiny greetings and the little tiny things that I do. There should be, like Father John at St. Elizabeth said one time, is like when you interact with somebody, like you get the two choices. You can either guide them towards Christ or guide them towards darkness. And so like those little tiny interactions, how can I slightly nudge them towards the better option, you know?
Yeah.
So I do this thing, so like I cross myself and bow when I enter the school grounds, because a lot of Japanese schools, they have like this front gates, right? And then every time I enter the classroom, it's kind of a mixture of that and Japanese culture, kind of Orthodoxy and Japanese culture. Like students don't do it, but I do it. Like I'll bow before I enter the classroom, and then I'll have, because how the Japanese high school works is you'll have the students, and then you'll have like a little podium and a little stage and a podium for the teacher. So the teacher's like a few inches above everybody, and so I have my books, and I'll make like a little sign of the cross over my books. I'll just do like a little prayer, and they don't know they don't notice what I'm doing. But if you ever are in the back of the classroom and you look at me, you'll see me kind of look up to the ceiling and then do like the little, like, you know, like when the priest or like the bishop will come out and they're like, forgive me. Like I basically do that every time before I start a lesson. They don't know what I'm doing. I'm like, that's cool, because y'all don't need to know what I'm doing. But
it's like a mini gesture.
Yeah, it's kind of like that. Like I'll do that, and then I'll begin. Because it's like, I don't know how to go out and be like, an evangelist type person, but it's like, hey, I can do this, I can do my little bow, I can do my little prayer, I can do something.
Yeah.
It's the little things.
The little things, exactly.
Yeah. Well, I think unfortunately we have to end.
Yeah.
We could do this again, though. I think we should come back at some point and have another ongoing conversation.
Yeah, we want to hear how things are going out there in Japan.
Definitely.
Oh yeah. If y'all want later on, some of the people I mentioned, I can get y'all in contact with them.
That'd be wonderful.
I think y'all would love it.
Likewise. Yeah. No, that sounds wonderful. And Nicholai, I think there's something beautiful about your connection with Saint Nikolai, about your being in Japan, having this heart for missions, and I think you yourself articulated the hope in the midst of that, is that as my spiritual father once said, we do the arithmetic and God takes care of the geometry. Like we do the simple stuff and God takes care of all the complex stuff. And I think the thing that, in thinking about it on that level, that I can struggle with is when I look at the life of a saint, I see the geometry and it kind of freaks me out a little bit.
Yeah.
And I forget that the saint was remaining faithful to God in the little things, and of course, I'm never, maybe I'll never be like, a certain saint, given their circumstances and their inner struggle and things like that. But I think it is universal to say that it's our duty to be faithful to the little things, and God takes care of the big things. And then people will look at us even, or at the work that we've done and be like, whoa, like how could Nikolai have done something like that? And all you were doing was looking up and bowing a little bit and loving a lot. And so it's I think that's a very good note to end on for all of us, and very encouraging, to remember that, we're not being asked to do these kind of gargantuan, tasks of kind of converting a whole nation or something like that. We're called to do the tiniest of acts, and that through that God can work wonders that we're probably not even going to be aware of in our lifetime. So
baby steps.
Amen. Baby steps. So it's been a pleasure, Nikolai. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you both. Thank y'all very much for letting me do this. Y'all enjoy Serbia. Is it Serbia? And thank y'all very much. And to everybody who's listening to this, keep it up. Keep up the struggle.
Amen.
So thank y'all very much.
All right.
I'm gonna go drink some coffee.